All right, let's talk about something that I know gives people headaches, Azure DevOps Permissions. I mean, it can feel like you're trying to untangle a giant knot of wires, right? Well, if you've ever found yourself completely lost in all those layers of settings, you've come to the right place. Stick with me, because by the end of this, you're going to have a super clear blueprint to get it all under control. Let's dive in.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with why this whole thing is so puzzling in the first place. Then we'll boil it down to 3 core ideas. After that, we'll look at the hierarchy, how to actually use groups, and wrap up with some crucial best practices. It's a straight shot from confusion to clarity.
All right, section 1, the permission puzzle. So why is this so confusing? Honestly, it's all the layers. You've got permissions at the top, at the organization level. Then they trickle down to the project level. And then you've got even more specific ones for repos, pipelines, heck, even individual branches. Every single layer can have its own set of rules. And it's just so easy to get completely lost trying to figure out which rule is actually in charge.
And look, this quote really hits the nail on the head. If you felt overwhelmed by this, you are so not alone. I mean, it's a super common feeling. The sheer number of settings and the way they all kind of cascade and bump into each other, yeah, it's a genuine headache.
But what if it didn't have to be that way? What if it could actually be simple? Imagine having a clear, go-to blueprint to follow. Well, that's exactly what we're building today. We're going to take that puzzle and turn it into a straightforward plan you can use right away. The kind that makes things secure, manageable, and lets your teams get their work done without tripping over permissions.
Okay, section 2, the 3 core concepts. So where do we even begin to untangle this? It actually all boils down to just 3 main ideas. Seriously, once you get these 3, everything else just clicks into place. You can think of them as the building blocks for your entire security setup.
All right, concept number 1, access levels. Now, this is a really important one to get right off the bat because, and this is key, it's not about permissions at all. This is just about what features a user can even see when they log in. For example, someone with the stakeholder level might only see the dashboards, but a user with basic access, they get to see the whole shebang, boards, repos, pipelines, you name it. So think of it like this. The access level is the ticket that gets you into the park, but it doesn't say which rides you're allowed to go on.
Next up, number 2, security groups. Okay, if you're going to build a permission model that doesn't make you want to pull your hair out, this is the cornerstone. Here's the golden rule, and you should probably write this down. Assign permissions to groups, not to individual people. You create a group for your developers, a group for your QA team, maybe one for project managers. Why? Because it makes life so much easier. When someone new joins, you just pop them in the right group. When someone leaves, you pull them out. Boom, done. Their access is updated everywhere automatically.
And that brings us to our third and final building block, the permissions themselves. This is where the rubber meets the road. These are the specific rules. You know, the you can do this and you can't do that. Can this group of users push code to the main branch? Can they delete a critical work item? Can they kick off a new pipeline? Every single one of those actions is controlled by a permission that you'll set to either allow or deny.
Okay, section 3, understanding the hierarchy. So now we've got our 3 building blocks, right? Access levels, groups, and permissions. So how do they all fit together? Well, it's all about a hierarchy. In Azure DevOps, permissions flow downwards, kind of like a waterfall. Whatever you set at the very top is going to cascade all the way down to the bottom.
Let me break that down for you. At the very highest level, you've got the organization. Any setting you make here, it applies to every single project underneath it. No exceptions. Then you go one step down to the project level. These settings apply to, you guessed it, just that one project. And finally, you can get super granular at the object level. We're talking permissions for one specific repository or a single build pipeline or even a particular branch within a repo. It goes from broad strokes to a fine-tipped pen.
Okay, now listen up, because this next part is maybe the single most important rule in this entire system. If you forget everything else, remember this. Deny always wins. I'm serious. Think about it. A user could be in 10 different groups, and all 10 of them give them an allow permission for something. But if just one permission somewhere says deny for that same action, they're blocked. Game over. Deny is the ultimate trump card.
And when I say this rule is absolute, I mean it. Check this out. Even if a user is a project collection administrator, which is basically like having the keys to the kingdom, a single explicit deny will still override their power. So if a group they're in specifically denies them the ability to, say, delete work items, it doesn't matter that they're an admin.
For that one action, they're blocked. That's how powerful deny is.
All right, Section 4, Groups in Practice. So enough with the theory, right? Let's get practical. How does this actually look day to day? Well, the best place to start is with the built-in security groups that Azure DevOps gives you right out of the box. So every time you create a new project, you get a handful of default groups, but really, these three are the ones you'll use 99% of the time. You've got readers, which is exactly what it sounds like. They can look but not touch. Perfect for stakeholders or managers who just need visibility. Then you have contributors. This is your bread and butter group for developers. They get the read and write access they need to actually build stuff. And finally, project administrators. These are the folks who can tweak the settings for that one project. Now, speaking of admins, this is a super important distinction to make. There are two main types, and they are not the same. A project administrator, on one hand, is focused. They manage a single project. They handle things like the teams, the repos, the pipelines inside that project. But a project collection administrator? Whoa, that's a whole different level. They manage the entire organization. We're talking creating new projects, installing extensions, setting organization-wide policies that impact everybody. It's a huge difference in scope and power. Okay, Section 5, Essential Best Practices. We've got the concepts down, we understand the hierarchy. Now let's talk about the golden rules. These are the things you should be doing to build a permission model that's not only secure, but also easy to manage as your team grows. You know, the stuff that will save you from major headaches later on.
So let's fire through the do's. First, I know I sound like a broken record, but it's that important. Assign permissions to groups, not individual users. Please. Even better, if you can, use Microsoft Entra ID groups to manage it all centrally. Next, always follow the principle of least privilege. Basically, only give people the absolute minimum access they need to do their job, and no more. Also, keep that project administrator's group small and exclusive. And finally, make it a habit to review your permissions regularly, and, this is a big one, document your setup. Trust me, your future self will be very, very grateful.
And on the flip side, here are the big don'ts. First, try to avoid putting a single user in a bunch of different groups that might have conflicting permissions. You are just creating a permission troubleshooting nightmare for yourself. Second, leave the default project valid users group alone. Don't mess with its permissions, it can have some really weird side effects. And finally, be super cautious with that deny permission. Remember how powerful it is? If you start sprinkling deny all over the place, it gets incredibly hard to figure out why someone can't do something. Use it like a scalpel, not a sledgehammer.
So, Section 6, we've made it. We've gone from that confusing puzzle to what can be a real fortress. We started with that jumbled mess, but now, by understanding those three core concepts, the way the hierarchy flows, and following these best practices, you can totally transform your setup. You can build something that's not just secure, but actually helps your teams work better while keeping everything protected. And that really leaves us with one final thought. A question for you to take back to your own projects. Is your permission model a fortress? Or is it more like a rickety old fence? You know, one that's kind of held together with duct tape and hope? The good news is, after this, you have the blueprint. You have everything you need to go out there and build a real fortress. Thanks so much